So we're going to talk about what are the top components for sprint training. When you're looking at sprint training, how you should be looking at it, from what angle you should be looking at it. Rolling in the deep. I gotta make a next one right here. We got two screens. All right, guys, we are live. We are live. So I'm live on all three socials. So um everybody, if you could hear me clearly, drop a one in the chat. Leave a one in the chat right now. Leave your flag in the chat so I could see it, so I know you guys are hearing me correctly. Leave a one in the chat, drop your flag in the chat so I can know you guys are hearing me good. Also, guys, share the video, share it with somebody who you think will find this information valuable. Tonight, the topic is going to be centered around strength training. So, we're going to discuss what are the top components for strength training for speed. Again, the topic is going to be what are the top components for strength training for speed. Right? When we're looking at strength training for speed, what are the top components? What are the things you need to focus on, and how it should relate and how it should relate to whatever your goal is. If you're a soccer player, if you're a basketball player, if you're no matter what sport, and that involves a little bit of sprinting or a little bit of strength training to improve performance, we're going to talk about it. So I'm still looking in the chat. I'm waiting for everybody to jump in here. We're live on YouTube. Leave a one on YouTube. Leave your flag. Let me know where you guys are checking in from before we get started. Let me know if my sound quality is good. I'm using a mic, so let me know if my sound quality is good. Guys, tonight's live chat was promptu. This was like a last minute thing. I'm so tired, but I just had to get this off my chest. I wanted to jump on here tonight and talk to you guys a little bit. So you guys are, and also I'm taking questions at the end, by the way. In the beginning, I'm not taking no questions. I'm just gonna be talking about strength training. Take your pen and papers out, and then at the end, I'm gonna take some questions. So if you have any questions centered around strength training, improving speed, you guys got my attention. So let's talk about it. All right. So when it comes on to when it comes to strength training for speed, the focus is gonna be explosive power, and it's going to be efficiency with the movements, right? And when we think about explosive power, we're talking about recruiting muscles to do what you want it to do. So if you're trying to jump as high as you can, if you're trying to jump from like a standing long jump forward as much as you can, then it's all about explosive power development. And I'm gonna list out three of the main exercises that I use or we implement in our training for um, explosive power development. If you're a beginner, you could do body weight exercises, right? You could do jump squat, jump lunges, all of the bound movements, all of the skipping movements. But if you are an advanced athlete or somebody who is already a lifter, you've been strength training for a while, you want to focus on um, the clean movements for that hip flexion and extension. You want to focus on jerk movements where you're pressing something over your head or pulling something towards your body. You want to focus on a snatch movement, right? So the three main lifts you want to focus on to improve or to work on explosive power development is some form of clean movement, some form of jerk movement, some form of snatch movement, right? These are going to be excellent for developing explosive power and also coordination. If we're thinking about sprinting, we're talking about coordination, we're talking about alertness, we're talking about like ground contact, quickness, recruiting muscles forcefully to move as fast as you can, right? So when we think about a movement like a power clean, right? The power clean, if you put the right amount of weight on the bar and you set it up in a situation where, like for example, when I do it, we will put like body weight on the bar and we would do it on command. So athletes have a couple seconds to move the bar as fast as they can from a whistle. So it's not just you're just banging out a bunch of reps. We would bang out reps, but that's for a different part of the season. But for when I'm thinking about explosive power development, you want to be very intentional, very specific. So the Olympic lifts, we all know these are great, but not all of them are going to be specific for sprinting. So the main ones for sprinting are going to be anything in the clean movement, anything in the jerk movement, and anything in the snatch movement, right? I particularly like the split snatch. That's one of my all-time fave. That's something that we add into our training regularly. So that's gonna be the biggest thing when it comes down to strength training. When you're thinking about explosive power development, the next thing you want to do is I tell people all the time that my sprinters, and as a sprinter, you should be training like a jumper, right? Lots of hopping, lots of bounds, lots of jump, lots of things where you're being very elastic, and pushing out of the ground and being quick, right? So you want to do lots and lots of plyometrics and be very intentional with your plyometrics. You want to focus on bound movement because this is going to help with elasticity. It's going to help with muscle it's gonna help with muscle recruitment. It's gonna help with tendon strength. So many things, right? So anything in the bound movements for sprinters is gonna be ideal. So number one, Olympic lifts. When we're thinking about explosive, when we're thinking about strength training for speed, you wanna do anything, any one of the Olympics lifts. You wanna do some form of jump training, i.e., plyometric training. And then the last one we wanna look at here in this section is you want to do some stuff with med ball, right? You want to work on rotational strength, right? You want to work on overhead explosiveness. You want to work on core strength. You want to work on you want to be able to transition movements because that's what you're doing when you're sprinting. You're transitioning from one leg onto the next leg. So if I could get my sprinters to do med ball toss where they're tossing the ball over their head and toss it behind them as far as they can, that's great for triple extension. It's great to recruit glutes and hamstrings. So again, let's recap. We're talking about strength training for speed. And the first subtopic is explosive power development. And how you develop your explosive power is by focusing on Olympic lifts such as cleans. I love the power cleans. You don't have to do all of them. You just want to get really good with one or two of the clean movements. My two favorites are the power cleans and the hand cleans depending on what we're working on. Then you want to work on some form of jerk movement where you're pressing something over your head, some type of bar, some type of dumbbell, pressing it using your full body. And the next thing you want to do is focus on some type of snatch movement. The snatch movement is going to be one of the more faster one, and you won't go as heavy with the weight. I would say for all of them, the one that you could go the heaviest with or push your limits with is going to be the clean movement. So that's it for that. Um, not taking no questions until the end. So get your questions ready. Stay until the end if you want to ask questions. If not, share the video. Again, drop a one if you can hear me correctly. Next thing we want to talk about here is let's look at let's look at strength and power for speed specific movements, right? Like for sprint specific movement. When we think about sprinting, what are the major muscles that we're focusing on? We're focusing on glutes, hamstring, quads. We're focusing on calf muscles, right? These are the most crucial ones when it comes down to acceleration and top end speed and maintaining your top end speed. So if you have a young athlete and you're trying to develop lower body strength, you start them out simple. You start them out with some back squats or some front squats. What I mean by back squat is they're holding some type of load at the back and they're trying to squat to 90 degree, or they're holding some type of load at the front and they're trying to squat to 90 degree. This is very simple and it's very effective. It's gonna develop quads, hamstring, glutes, and calves, and you get a little bit of core strength in there as well, right? The next thing you want to do here is focus on a little bit of deadlifts. So for the deadlift, we're looking at the posterior chain again. We're thinking about lower back, we're thinking about hamstrings, and we're thinking about glutes. This is the main one that I use the deadlift for. I use the deadlift for hamstrings and glutes. If you have an athlete who doesn't have good hamstring strength, I see a lot of thing with the Nordic curls and all these things, but I think that's a little bit advanced. In the beginning, you want to build them up by teaching them the deadlift movement because even if they don't have weights in their hand, if they could learn to engage hips and stick their hip back, they're gonna feel that hamstring, they're gonna feel that glute, and that right there will give them mind and body connection, muscle and mind connection, right? I think the deadlift is greater or is more useful when it comes on to developing leg, like hamstring strength and and flexibility. Right? I don't do Nordic curls and I don't get hamstring injuries. Knock on wood, because I do a lot of deadlifts. But my deadlifts are crazy though. When I'm lifting, I'm really lifting. So focus on a little bit of deadlift movement. The next thing you want to focus on here when it comes on to sprint and power for specifically for speed and power when it comes down to the movement of sprinting. You want to do some lunges. Any one of the lunge movements is great. You want to weight your lunges or you want to go for distance. This is going to help you to develop balance, stability, and power for each leg individually. Right? The lunge is very slept on. Yo, big thing. I don't know who this with. Sound like you from Jamaica with them type of talks. But yeah, man, we're not taking no questions and we ain't doing nothing until at the end. So let me move on. The next thing we're talking about here is core strength and stability, right? This is going to be a major component of strength training for speed, core strength and stability. Fun fact, I'm one of these guys who firmly believe that I don't do a bunch of crunches, but I do believe that one of the main reasons why most of the top sprinters are the best sprinters in the world sprint so fast is because they have a really strong core. And there's multiple ways you can hit your core, right? I'm somebody who don't like to do core work every day. I like to get really specific. So my thing is small little steps. So I would do like a plank hold every morning, right? Or whenever I'm not tired, but I do it continuously. Just like instead of trying to bang out a bunch of reps and then you're sore for like 2 days and you can't do no more the next day, right? Instead, I go with little small steps. So I would have plank circuits where I'm doing um, front plank, side planks, and these are great for sprint mechanics. For example, think about an athlete who's twisting from side to side, who's leaning back when they're running. Right? Imagine if they're running, if you have a sprinter and the sprinter is leaning back and running and they're running fast. Imagine how much more faster they could run if they just engage that core a little bit more. And how you do this is by strengthening the core. So you want to focus on a little bit of core strength. Next thing we're going to talk about when it comes on to strength training is hip and ankle stability. Right? This is a major one, especially for sprinters. The main exercises you want to focus on here is hip thrusts, calf raises, and step ups. These are going to target the hips and ankle stability right away because when we think about hip thrust, that's straight engaging hip muscles, hip movement. It's straight, you're gonna feel it right away. Like everything is gonna go straight to the glute activation, straight to that posterior chain for the hamstring. You're gonna be working hip flexors, all of these areas, right? And that's what we want to think about when we think about the hips when it comes on to sprinting. Um, Calf raises another one. I'm not too big on the calf raises. I would much rather have my athletes do hops, right? Because that kind of mimics kind of what you're going to be doing when you're sprinting or running. And the next one is step up. Again, step up is a really good one because it reinforces sprint mechanics. Again, you're always driving that knee. You're always trying to step over one foot over the next foot, right? The next thing we're going to look at here is this is a big one for me, right? I think I could say all of my improvements last year was because of focusing on these things, the especially coach, do you train with knee from toe while squatting? Knee from off the toe. Hold on. Let's ping this. They said if I train with do you train with knee from up? I go with a flat foot approach, right? That is my approach. Sports Canada, that Formula Fitness, I go with a flat foot approach. I don't try to stress being front or at the back. I would much rather the athlete just leave their foot flat on the ground and focus more on driving their hips back and mind and body connection. What are you feeling when you're going down for the squat? Are you feeling lower back, but are you feeling glutes and hamstring engage, right? And abs. So I try to focus on those things instead of what the feet is doing. Oh, Vanessa is in here. Hello, Vanessa. I saw you today. Fun fact, Vanessa is is one of our fitness clients, and she's very strong. She a strong athlete. Came a far away, girl. Okay, so let me keep going here. We're gonna talk about we're talking about the components of what are the top components when we're thinking about um strength training for speed. And so far, we covered explosive power development. We covered strength and power for speed, for sprint specific movement. We covered core strength and stability. We covered hip and ankle stability. The next one I was getting into here is this is a big one for me. It's mobility and flexibility. This is overlooked in the sprinting world, in the running world in general. This is huge, especially the mobility aspect of it, right? I would say the biggest things you want to do is implement routines into your training where you're focusing on a little bit of mobility in the beginning, where the major muscles that you're gonna work, you want to go through movement slowly. Like what I like to do is march some drills first, or do some lunges with reach ups, full range of movement, slow though, before I get into the more intense version of those movements. And that's great mobility work. And what it does, it just loosens up the body, increase blood flow, and it makes it makes training easier. And also it speeds up recovery, right? And then you also want to implement some type of cool down ritual where I like to walk and then do a few stretches. And if I'm in a rush and I don't get to do it at training or after training, then when I get home or when I have time, so for example, in between clients, I do some stretches, right? But you want to stay on top of those things. So that's number five. We're talking about the top components when it comes down to strength training for speed. The next one here is you want to focus on a little bit of speed specific conditioning. And this is huge. When I say speed specific conditioning, we're talking about resistance sprints. We're talking about sled pushes, sled pulls. We're talking about adding resistance to sprints or drills or whatever your movement is. So for example, you're a soccer player and it's a lot of agility movement where you're changing direction quickly. Put a weight vest on, right? And do everything. That gives you an added resistance, but also you're working a little bit harder and it's good conditioning. You're not trying to go as fast as you can, but you're trying to just be very conditioned for your sport. And condition don't mean that you're going to go out there and run for 10, 20 kilometers, right? You could do short sprints loaded with resistance and you get the same effect, if not even better, because it's shorter, it's more tailored to what you're going to do, right? So if you don't have any type of resistance, buy a resistance band. If you don't have a resistance band, you just find a hill, slight incline or a slight decline, and you go up the hill and you go down the hill. It's good. And the last thing we want to focus on here, the last thing we want to focus on here is recovery and injury prevention. When we think about what strength training is and how it affects the body, you want to focus on active recovery. So we're not, if you're somebody who's strength training, you don't want to just take the whole thing off. I try to implement like doses of strength training into my training 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But my athletes don't even know that I'm doing this. I'm telling them now, right? When we come out there and I took the sled out, or I take the resistance machine out, or we're just wearing like a lightweight vest. That is strength training, right? But it's light strength training. And what you want to do is, if you're working like that, you want to have some active recovery days, right? I always say 4 days, 3 days. So 4 days on, 3 days off, or 5 days on, 2 days off. However, right? But you want to find that time where you're focusing on a little bit of recovery. So let's recap. When we're talking about when we're talking about the top components for speed, for strength training for speed, the first one you want to focus on is explosive power development. And by this I mean you want to focus on, you want to do some type of movement that's very explosive or tailored to some type of explosiveness or quickness. Then you want to do some type of jump training, which is plyometrics. Then you want to do some type of rotational training, which is going to be some type of medicine ball type movement, right? I could do a million videos on these guys. As a matter of fact, if you're just now tuning in, share the video. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the Lifestyle Athletics YouTube channel, subscribe now, right now. Share the video with somebody. Share this with a young athlete or older athlete, whosoever. Share it. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing we want to talk about is, so the first thing we spoke about was strength training. We spoke about explosive power development. Then we touch on strength and power for sprint specific movements. And when I say sprint specific movements, I'm talking about what are the major muscles you're using when you're sprinting? Quads, glutes, hamstring, calves. Those are the major ones. So you want to focus on exercises that are going to target those areas. I would suggest any form of squatting, front squat, back squat. I prefer the front squat. I'm not a big fan of the back squat. And I'm not saying that because I can't do back squat. I love the back squat, but I will only go quarter with it. But if I'm trying to do some deep squat to really engage glutes and hamstring, I'm gonna go with the front squat with a lighter weight, right? So deadlifts are great for the hammies. Lunges are great for muscle and for muscular imbalance. So for example, one leg is stronger than the other. You do some lunges, you're gonna individualize that leg. You're gonna spend more time on one leg than on the other one, and then you will realize right away which leg is stronger than the other. Do I track macros? What was your strength training routine at Lincoln? Who is this? Lincoln? Yo, you know how long ago this was? Like 2012. Jesus. I don't think, I think this dark 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 tan man, when we were at Lincoln, for those of you who don't know, I went to a university down there in America, Lincoln University, down there in Missouri. I spent a year there, right? They didn't have a good strength training program. I'm not gonna lie. I think my best year of strength training was last year. Last year, I kind of did my own study and research about strength training and implemented certain things, and it kind of helped me and like not get injured. I was injured down there because the strength training wasn't good, right? We ran, we used to run. We had spikes on November. We was running. That was um Poppy's thing down there, but still a good school. If you're looking for a way out, it's a good school. Damn, Lincoln Days, bro. Who is this, bro? What? Who are you? You stole my I stole it 2014. I was on fire 2014. What are you talking about? I was down there, I was training with Bat down there in St. Aug. I was working. That wasn't no game. I was coming out that year too. I wasn't playing no game because I was coming out. I had a chip on my shoulder from the year before that. Oh man. Damn, Lincoln. That's crazy. What's your real name, bro? From Lincoln? All right. Now let's talk about it. We're gonna talk about what are the top strength training exercises for sprinters. What exercises you should be doing as a sprinter, whether you're a beginner, you're an advanced athlete, somebody who's just looking into like running or sprinting. And mind you, when I say sprinting, In Jamaica, it's interchangeable. We don't say sprinters in Jamaica, we say runners. It's either you're a long runner or you're a short runner, but we call everybody runners in Jamaica. But for YouTube purposes and Instagram and stuff like that, they kind of it's sprinters and runners. It's two different community, I guess, even though it's the same thing. Some people just go for long and some people go for short. It is what it is. So we're gonna talk about, and the point I'm trying to make is all these exercises, if you run long or you run short, you could benefit from these. Whether you go for long or you go for short. Yeah, so Olympic lifts. We want to do clean and jerk. So you combine two movement together where you clean the bar and then you press the bar, right? You could call it a snatch as well. It's a similar movement where you clean and you press over your head, right? Or you go from the bottom and you clean and you stop here, then press. And you could clean and press it in a when you're pressing in a split movement, or you could press it in a squat movement. Either way works, right? So what all this is doing is just you're mimicking explosive power, you're enhancing explosive power, you're mimicking coordination, the force that you would have to, like when you're in the blocks or you're at top speed and you're trying to go as fast as you can and hold your speed. When you do a clean movement, you're trying to be as alert, you're trying to enhance those explosive components of sprinting, right? Even though the best way to do it is to sprint, but if your body is not fully developed or you're somebody who's just developing, if you add these and you learn how to do these movement correctly, get that mind and body connection, it's gonna make you improve even more. Like you have nothing to lose, and it targets all the specific areas of your body when it comes on to sprinting. So again, let's go over it. The question is, what are the top strength training exercises all sprinters should be doing? The first one I have here is the clean and jerk or snatch. Second one I have here is the squats. So you could go front squat or back squats. I prefer the front squat. It's up to you. You could go a quarter squat, and then I could go in depth about all of this, because for all of these, there's a time in the season where you could either load the bar or you take weight off the bar or you do a little bit of both, right? And even with the range of motion too, because even for the squats, there's a part of the season where you don't want to be going too deep in the squat, right? So we can make videos about those. We could talk about it. All you have to do once you see this video, share it with somebody, leave a comment somewhere in here so I can know. Can you shout out Claire? Who's Claire? Shout outs. But this is not a hip hop channel, bro. This is not radio. This is the Lifestyle Athletics live podcast. And tonight the topic is strength training for speed, if you're a sprinter or a runner. This one is conventional. We're going to talk about the deadlift. So there's two main types of deadlifts, right? The conventional one is going to focus on the hamstrings, the glutes. Like think about the major muscles when you're using when you're sprinting. One of the biggest one is gonna be lower back, is gonna be glutes, and then it goes down to the hamstring. So if the lower back is tight, could be coming from the glutes, then the hamstring is gonna be tight. If the hamstring is tight, glutes probably gonna be tight, lower back is gonna be tight. So they're all working together. So you want to strengthen those areas, and the conventional deadlift is one of the best ways to do it. Then we have a variation of the deadlift that people call it the RDL, Romanian deadlift. And all this is just a little bit of bending the knee. That's all it is, right? It's the same move, but with this one, you work your core a little bit more, and also you work hip a little bit more. You could get a little bit more hip engagement with the bent knee. So that's the only difference. So let's recap. Top exercises for sprinters to be doing if you're trying to strength train. Uh, you want to do something from the Olympic lift. So you want to do a clean and jerk was the first exercise I said, or a snatch. They're both the same thing. Then you want to do some form of squat front squat or back squat. I prefer the back squat, and there's box squat as well. I would say reserve that for your younger athletes or your less developed athletes. I use that with a lot of my young athletes. I put them on the box and tell them to stand, give them a little weight in the hand, and they teach them how to do the movement. Number four here is hip thrusts. You can use a barbell, you can use dumbbell. This one specifically targets the glutes. You know, when you're in that push off phase, right? When you're pushing off the blocks or you're pushing out of one step into the next step, you know how important the glutes are. So, hip flexors, I mean, the hip thrust is a huge one. You know, it's it's an exercise where you don't have to load the bar with a lot of weight to get the same effect. I would say use moderate weight and focus on full range of motion, and you would get real benefits from this when it comes down to strengthening glutes and hamstring. Dark, yo, you know I coach a few people who play pickleball. I just recently found out about pickleball. It's like tennis but shorter court with smaller and a different type of ball, but basically tennis but faster. It's I coach a couple people who I've never tried it before. I like, you know what I like? I like badminton. That's my favorite one when it comes down to net and the racket. So number four is hip thrust. Number five is lunges. For the for the lunges, there's two main ones I like. I like the walking lunges. Anything in the walking lunges is great. It's gonna target quads, hamstring, glutes. It's gonna develop single leg stability, and this is huge if you're a sprinter. It's gonna develop coordination, and this is huge as a sprinter. If you're trying to develop your acceleration, your power output, right? When you're sprinting, focus on those lunges. The lunges is the way to go. And then the other type of lunges here is a split squat or the one where you I would say I don't like to do it with my back foot elevated because I I don't like to do it that way. I like to stand in the split squat position and drop my knee down and stand all the way back up. That's the way I like to do it. So I find when I do it like that, I feel more quads, feel more glutes and hamstring. When I'm up on a thing, I know I'm doing it right, but for some reason the knee a little bit there. So let's recap. Number one, we're gonna talk about the top strength training exercises all sprinters should be doing. Number one is some form of clean and jerk. Number two is some form of squat. Number three is some form of deadlift. Number four is hip thrust. There's no some form of hip thrust, it's hip thrust. Number five is lunges, so you could go with the walking lunges. I like the walking lunges, and we could do variations of the walking lunges. We could explode up, we could explode forward, and we could go backwards. There's so many ways we could go with the lunges. And then split squats. Um, Next one we want to do here, this is number six, is some form of step up movement. You can use a dumbbell or a barbell. The goal is to weight this exercise, and your box level, you have to be focused on your box level too. So if I'm gonna go with a really high box, that's when I'm focusing on full range of motion, and I'm not gonna give my athletes no weight. But if they have weight in their hand, they're gonna get, so for example, they're going with no weight, the box is gonna be like 30 inches, and you have to step up on that and drive the knee up. But if we have weight in our hand, the box is probably going to be 14 inches or maybe 24 inches, and then you step up on that and drive the knee. So that's the next one, some form of step up movement. Number seven is plyometrics. Again, jump training. You want to do some depth jumps, you want to do some explosive box jumps, you want to do some boundings is very specific to sprinting. So anything in the bounds are good. You could do long bounds, short bounds, you could do bent knee bounds, you could do power skips. All of these are great. Again, if you're a sprinter, you need to be training like a jumper. If you're a jumper, you need to be training like a sprinter, vice versa. Okay, we're almost done here, guys. I feel like we're flying through this one tonight. I love it. I think I like this when I come on and I have topics, so I'm not just sitting out here reading comments. I'm gonna read comments at the end though. So we're almost there. So number eight is core strength training. For your core strength training, you want to focus on some type of plank movement, some type of twist movement, some type of basically the same thing. Some type of movement where you're twisting side to side, so you can get a little bit of stability work in there, work on balance. You want to focus on some upper body. And when I say upper body, we're talking about arm swing mechanics. This is a big one, right? You go with light weights and you think about the movement that you're trying to do when you're running and sprinting, and you do that movement, right? Number nine here is some form of calf raise. You could do seated calf raise. You could do standing calf raise. I prefer hops, so it's up to you. Number 10 is some type of swing for hip movement, for coordination. Again, um, kettlebell swings are great. These movements help you to engage your hips, teach you how to use your glutes, teach you how to use your hamstring, right? And that's what sprinting is all about. Sprinting is all about recruiting fast twitch muscle fiber to go as fast as you want over a period of time, like 10 seconds, 25 seconds, or however long you're sprinting for. Um, Sled pulls and pushes, these are great. Some form of hill sprint is great. So let's recap one more time. Top exercises, top exercises, top strength training exercises for sprinters. Number one, some form of clean or snatch. Number two, some form of squat. I prefer the front squat. Some form of deadlift. I prefer the conventional. Some people, I prefer the conventional. I also prefer the white stance deadlift too. We could go into that again. We could go into a whole another side of the white stand. And then number four is hip thrust. Number five is lunges. Number six is step ups. Number seven is jump training, some form of plyometric movement for sprinting. Specifically, we would want to do the bounds. Anything in the bounds is good. Number eight is core strength training. So when we say core strength training, we're talking about not just doing a bunch of crunches. We're talking about planks, right? Stabilization of of your torso, right? We're talking about twists, any type of twist movement, we're going from side to side to help you to focus on balance and coordination. Then we said calf raises. I prefer hops, calf hops. Some people prefer calf raises. Then we said swings, kettlebell swings. These are great for hip engagement, teaching you how to hinge at the hip and be explosive from that area. Then we said sled pushes and pulls. These are great if you don't have a sled. Last one here is get on the hill. All right, guys. Now I'm taking questions. I'm taking questions for the next 5 minutes. So let's start over here. I'm starting on YouTube, by the way. What one said he never used to lift weight. Yeah, and that's why he ain't last, bro. Think about it. He didn't lift no weights and he ran 47.2 seconds. Imagine if this man went to the weight room. He probably would have been one of the first guys to run 46. As a matter of fact, I think when I went down to Senag, we kind of reinvented the whole lifting idea down there, because I went down there with the and I was training with this coach. His name is Mr. Johnson. He was coaching at Arizona State at the time, somewhere far he was, and he used to send me some strength training program because he was coming from. I think he got his stuff in like Germany or something like that. That's where he got his background from in terms of strength training, and also down there in Jamaica when I was at UTEC training with this was when Asafa and them had the world record, when Shelly just won Beijing. It was crazy. I learned some stuff from them too. So when I went to Senal, we kind of brought all of that with us down there. And then, Senal has that great 400 program, and no 400 program like Senal. If you get some good athletes who are willing to work, I'm telling you, man, you could push out some serious 400 runners from out of that school. Well, I don't know about now because George is gone. Okay, I'm over here and so I'm gonna be canceling these lives one by one. Probably gonna start with uh Instagram first. Instagram is the first one to go. So I'm taking a few more questions. Anybody have any questions for me over here on Instagram before I let the gram go? We live on the gram. Okay, let's see what you say here. You have a meet tomorrow. I'm running the 150 and 60 and 300. Whoa, any tips? Get some good rest, bro. What time is it where you at? Go to bed. You running three of them? That's three events. Figure out the meet schedule. What's the meet schedule like? Is it like back to back? Do you get a break in between? Make sure you eat something solid because there's three runs back to back. Make sure you eat something solid. And then for the warm up, be very careful with the warm up too, because you don't want to over warm up yourself. Yeah, there always had. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, man. And Senag had that great 400 program. That's still top notch. I went down there and I improved my 400 like nothing. It was like boom. Even their sprinters they could run a good four, and I see why because the work they did was nothing. It was tough. It's tough. All right, next question. Hey, man, I've been watching you before, and this is my first season. 10, 10, 7. That's faster than me, bro. You run 10, 7. I want to run 10, 7. If you're running 10, 7, how old are you? Javish, how old are you? I'm pronouncing your name wrong. How old are you? And I think for all of these schools, D1 or D2, I think your grades has to be on point too. It's not just about what time you run, right? There's a criteria that goes along with it. You're 17. I mean, when do you graduate? You gotta get down. You gotta your potential. 10, 7 is not bad. You could get down there though. 53 is not bad. At 15 years old, that's not bad. Okay. Questions are floating in. How important is isometric? Oh, this is a good question right here. How important is isometric training for sprinting? It is very important when we're thinking about training tendon strength, when we're thinking about elasticity, when we're thinking about just time under tension, right? Because think about it, when we train for strength training for sprinting, we only focus on the muscle building, like the muscles. We don't really focus too much on the tendons and the ligaments and the connective, the things that connect muscle to bone. So when you focus on isometrics, you're focusing more on those aspects of training. And as a sprinter, if you don't have strong tendons, like one of my top athletes right now, torn ligament in the foot and problems. Talking about my lovely wife, problems. And when she's on point, she's dropping PBs. But when that ligament got ruptured and damaged, she can't go like a full week of training, right? So isometric training is very important. I'm gonna do a whole topic on this. Let me write this down because this is a great one for people who don't know. And also I post a lot of video. If you go to my YouTube channel, I post a lot of video on isometric training. I do a lot of isometric training in my training sessions, but I don't go crazy with it because it gets you really sore. So we may do it like once a week and not in every strength training session. So we may start with some isometrics and then get into some strength training, if that makes sense. So you don't want to overdo it. Just like anything else, you want to be very moderate. Think about it as like a small dosage, over time to get you to a big goal. It's just like if you're trying to prepare for a 400, you don't go to the track every day and run 400 meters, right? I find that athletes tend to overdo it, coaches overdo it. Hey bro, what are you from? You mean where I'm from? I am from Jamaica originally. Yeah, Alexis, go check out my YouTube, man. I have multiple videos over there with the specific exercises that all sprinters like isometric exercises that sprinters should be doing because these are exercises that I implement. I think a couple of my videos I'm even doing follow along where I'm doing the workout, the full workout, explaining the movement, explaining what my body is feeling in the moment and how it relates to sprinting. But that's a really good question, and I'm gonna stay tuned. I'm gonna do a full video on the importance of ISO. Character time is 50. My coach said I think I can. Character, where are you from? Zane, where are you from? You're talking about character. Character that's the Caribbean. That's the Caribbean game. Where are you from? I wanted to make character so bad. You know, I've never made a junior team. I wanted to make a junior team so bad, but I just didn't have the speed for it. How do you look into joining the Canadian Track and Field League? How do you join the Track and Field League? Go CTFL. Go to, I don't know if he's on TikTok, but go to Instagram and type in CTFL and send him an inbox. That's how you join that league. That's a good little league if you're an athlete who's just looking to expose yourself to competition. You get a couple competitions in outdoor per year. And there's nothing indoor, but there's some stuff outdoor. Question. My 1600 meter time is You're asking me about 1600 meters? I can't tell you anything too much about the 1600, man. I don't even 1600. What does that mean? I know about 1500. I could tell you about the 1500 or 8, but 1600? Is that a real race, guys? Is the 1600 meter a real race? Or is it called something else? No, there's no way. Is the 1600 meter a real race? Um, in the Caribbean. Oh, you're from Angola. Oh, okay, bro. You got this, man. And then that country that you're from, um, they don't have a lot of like athletes, not from my knowledge. So, are you training there right now? You're running 10-7 and you're living in Angola? Not bad. You've never made it before, yeah, but you have to train, man. Like with anything, you have to train hard. You have to be disciplined. You have to be ultra disciplined, right? You could do it though. You're at the right place, bro. You're literally on a two-time Olympians page right now asking him questions. You're at the right place. Your mind is in the right place, so you'll get the things you want. Do my app videos. Do my core workouts. Don't skip on your core workout. Don't skip on the mobility work, and just share the page with people. I think high school is in some part. Do Yes, any you could run the CTFL. Just reach out to CTFL and talk to them. I think they do like a draft, but I don't think talk to him. I don't know how he sets it up, but I'm pretty sure they're accepting athletes. All right, I'm gonna take a few more questions here from Insta. Let's ping this one. What does this say? Hey bro, what do you say about someone who start track like 5 months ago and want to run 400? I'm Jamaican. Um, keep going. Are you training? What level of competition are you trying to do? So there's levels to it, right? So, for example, in my group, I will have athletes who are training to train. Then I have athletes who are training to compete, and then I have athletes who are just developing. So, what level are you at? Are you following some type of structured training? Those are the things you have to. Those are the questions you ask, and you're at the right place. Who's Mark One? How old are you? When are you look? You say you're trying to run a 400. Do you have structured training? That's gonna be the biggest thing. If you have structured training, you'll be fine. My timing is 48. Last 2 years I run running the same time with no improvement. So maybe you need to change up training. If you're running the same time over and over, you need to reevaluate training and try to come up. Yeah, Zonel, I know Zonel is the man, but isn't he Great Britain now? Isn't Zonel over there? Isn't Zonel a Great Britain man? But I guess that's the transition, right? You run fast for Angola, and then because Angola is a British colony, then you could go run for England if you run fast enough, though, because those boys in England, they're running. They're playing no games right now. Yes, I'm training. My goal is the Jamaica champions. So how old are you? Your goal is to run the 400 for Jamaica, or you're trying to go to the championship? Like, you're not being specific. You have to be very specific, because I could tell you right now, if your goal is to be a Jamaican. I don't understand what you're trying to say. So this person said, how many times you recommend to sprint train in a week? Depending on what the goal is, right? If you're just sprint training to sprint train just to be faster, and some people use it for muscle building purposes, and some people use it for just cardio purposes. But if your goal is to compete, it's gonna be a little bit different. But if you're a regular person and you're just using it to stay in shape and be to get that look, to have that physical and be fast and be agile, then I would say two times a week is good. You don't want to overdo it. 2 times a week is good, and you want to vary your distances. So sometimes you go shorter distances for your sprint, and sometimes you stretch your sprints out where you're doing longer sprints, right? It's like not every day you go to the track to sprint, or whenever you do sprint training, you're just running 0 to 40 meters or 0 to 50. You want to push to 80, you want to push to 100, you want to push to 150, right? So 2 days a week is a sweet spot if you are just somebody who's training to train. I hope that answers your question. My goal is to win the championship, then continue improving after that. I'm 19. You're 19 and your goal is to win the champ. So you're gonna win Jamaica. You're trying to win the national championship in Jamaica for the 400. If you're 19, you're not gonna be in the junior section. You're gonna be in the senior section. So you'll be competing against the regular boys, right? And I'm telling you right now, regular boys are. So last year I was there, 44.5 won, and 44.6 got second. So all three guys who made the team for the Olympics ran under 45 seconds. So if you believe you could do that, then you stand a chance. If not, I would say get structured training, develop as an athlete first before you set those crazy lofty goals, right? I'm not shitting on your goals or anything. I'm just saying, in terms of track and field, you have to be very realistic because then, say for example, you say, okay, I think I can win or whatever, and you go down and you get your ass beat. Then what? You gonna give up, right? So set realistic goal. Maybe your goal should be at first to run a full season of 400 and see how you like it. Or maybe your goal should be to find a good 400-meter program so you could be guided on what to do, right? And you're in the right place. So if you're looking for programs, I'm ready. You just let me know. Uh, question. The question is what's better? Asics, Nike, or Saucony? You talking about running shoes? You talking about running shoes? I can't pronounce your name. Angelina's Fitness. If you're talking about running shoes, the high end one is gonna be Asics. Nike is gonna be the cheapest. Saucony is gonna be in the middle, depending on what type of shoe you're looking for. And in terms of accessibility, Nike is gonna be the one where anybody could go buy a pair, and they're pretty decent. But there's no one better running shoes, right? It depends on what you're trying to do with your shoes. What do you want out of your shoes? But in terms of price point, people would say A6 because it's more expensive. I would say, sure, they're more expensive based on the system that they have in the shoe, but it doesn't mean that it's a better shoe. It all depends on what you're trying to do in the shoe. Middle running shoe. Middle running shoe. I don't understand your question. Middle running shoe, or you want a shoe? Okay, I see another question here that makes sense. What you consider a structured training? Can you be more specific? Oh man, I could go. All right, so let me see if I could do this. So, um, what's your name? Alexis. So you say, what do I consider structured training, and if I could get more into what structured training is? Hold on, I'm gonna show you something. Um, let's see. Give me a second here. All right, so let's do this. Let's see if it comes up. If it comes up, then I'll show you. All right. So Alexis, structured training literally mean when you start training in September, what's the plan? What is the goal? Can you see this document that I have up here? If you could see this document, you let me know. Right? So this is what a structured training program would look like, right? So everything is periodized where we have a specific guideline, and every time you go to the track, you're doing something specific and it's all tailored to the goal that you're trying to accomplish. I don't want to share too much of that information. I'm just showing you what a structured training plan would look like. So, say for example, you start training September. So from September to January, what are you doing? What type of cycle are you on? So I have my athletes on like a 3 week, sometimes 4 week cycle, because we're in Canada. Sometimes the weather may not allow us to do what we want to do. And also a lot of my athletes are people who work regular jobs. So sometimes they can't come and train. So I have to stack certain days. But I say we go 3 weeks, then we do like a test, we evaluate, then we go another 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then we look at major competitions, and then we say, okay, this is the first meet that we're gonna open up at, so we're gonna be preparing you a certain way until you get to this meet. Right? That's what structured training means. It means you have a plan. You're not just going to the track running a workout. It means that, say for example, you, Alexis Miller, your plan is next summer you want to run at a track meet and you want to run the 400. You want to go compete in the 400 to test your 400 meter. Until from if you start training with me January 1st, until from now until January, until the first meet. Say for example, the first meet is your first meet is July 1st. Until then, you would be on a structured program to the point where you go 3 weeks and you're running a certain distance, and then we're testing just to figure out where you're at, and you're getting more comfortable with the distance. You're not gonna just go run at a track meet because you train, if that makes sense. It's so hard. It's not easy to answer this question, but it's a really good question, and I could give you a full breakdown. Wait, what happened to my camera? Camera gone. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to hold on. Let me. Damn it, my camera. Camera is gone, guys. My camera died. I'm still talking. I'm waiting on it to come back up here before we get cracking. I'm probably gonna take a few more questions and I'm jumping out. But yes, Alexis, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say to you. It's structured training is what's gonna get you from one end to the next, and most most elite sprinters have real structure. Like I, for example, myself, I know when my first track meet is indoor, how many meets I'm running indoor, how many training days and weeks it's gonna take me to get to that meet, and what's the plan is. Like I know when I go on a Monday, what I'm expecting in Tuesday, what I'm expecting in Thursday. You understand? So there's a structure throughout the week, and that's gonna get you the best results. Um, I did not leave. I am still here. My camera just died, but I am still here. I'm taking another minute of questions, then I'm gonna jump off. The goal was 30 minutes, but we did an hour. Proud of that. So, any more questions before I say goodbye to yesterday? Anything? We have any juice? It's so hard to say goodbye. Hold on, let me see if I can get my camera back in here. I'm back. All right, guys. Um, but yeah, can you guys still hear me? Let me know if y'all can still hear me. Sandy Ambitious, you have any questions for me? Transition to sprinting from weightlifting. Transition to sprinting. What? What kind of question is this? Somebody said, "Do you masturbate?" Bro, how old are you? Are you 5? I'm gonna throw you off because you asking the wrong questions, bro. Wrong questions, bro. You're in the wrong place, bro. Can I get a recovery plan for my heels per shoot me and a direct message. Sandy Ambitious. Shoot me a direct message. Block them. There's weird questions they're asking. I don't understand. All right. So a few more questions here before I jump off. Um, okay, that's like me too. I started sprinting. I started sprinting late too, right? Like, but it doesn't mean that you can't develop. You have to. So as a matter of fact, you could develop quicker because you haven't been doing it for a long time. So there's not that mind body connection isn't there. So what you could do is focus on a little bit of strength training, some plyometrics, and get very intentional with your mechanics. Make sure you're sprinting properly, and that will help you to improve. Question is, what's your strategy for running a good 4? Oh man, to run a good 400. This is a really good question. Rika vibes. My strategy. Rika vibes sound like a Jamaican. Are you Jamaican? My strategy, there's multiple different strategies for the 400, but I would say your strategy is going to be based on your training method, right? Like if you're training a certain distance, like a good distance to train for the 400 is the 250. So your strategy is based on what your 200-meter time is, what your 300-meter time is, how fast are you to 350, things like those, right? There's not one specific strategy. You can't, like, I see multiple videos on here, well, get out and then run as fast and run on back. None of that works, right? The 400-meter is a sprint, so you have to have a good start, you have to have good reaction, you have to have great acceleration, but at the same time you have to have good speed endurance with great sprint mechanics. So I would say a good strategy would be figure out how you could run 300 meters fast. Like if you're trying to run, so for example, for myself, I'm trying to run 45 seconds in the 400. So I know my 300-meter, I need to be able to get the 300-meter comfortably in under 34 seconds. Comfortably, right? So that's how you have to think about it. So there's certain distances you could train to help you with your strategy. I don't want to give too much away on here because I am 400-meter is one of my specialty events. That's an event that I believe I am really good at coaching. So I don't want to give too much away, but I would say focus on the distances. It's 400 meters, right? So it's 4 times 100. How fast are you to 100? How fast are you to 200? How fast are you to 300? How fast can you run or can you maintain your form when you're under fatigue? I just gave it the keys right there. That's as much as I could say when it comes down to that. So what is the peak age? What is the peak age or peak age for performance? It depends on the athlete. It depends on the athlete. So if you're an athlete who's just now developing, you're gonna peak a little bit different. So if you're an athlete who's seasoned, maybe sometimes it's good to switch coaches, switch programs. There's no specific age where, oh, as you get to this age, you're done, right? I've done debunk that a long time ago because I last year I was 35 and I ran two PBs in the 400 and the 400, and they're ranked worldwide. It's not just I run a time; it's ranked. All right, two more questions, then I'm done. Try training myself. Listen, man. Who's this? Co-host, but I'm not co-hosting with you, bro. I don't know who you are. I'm not coming on no live with anybody right now. We have to talk about that first before you come and do face to face. Um, Alexis, yeah, man, you're in the right place, you know. You're talking to the right guy. If you're trying to train, let me know. You could train we could start you off with just somebody who's training to train, then we transition into training to compete. And this is where I come in. So you let me know. You try train a lot of people try training themselves, and if you don't have good structure, you could get from point A to point B, but you may lose in the middle because you're not structured. Yeah, can you PM time days you train at York? Be cool to come over and train sprint and jumps. Um, what is this, Chris? I'm at York at 9 a.m. most days, Monday to Thursday, not on the weekend, Monday to Thursday. And on Monday and Wednesday, I'm there at 6:30 p.m. I'm only there at 6:30 p.m. 2 days per week, but in the mornings I'm there Monday through Thursday most days. Yeah, man, York is that's a great facility, you know. It's a great facility. I was down there in Senna. We didn't have an indoor facility and we won indoor. We were training on a basketball court when it snowed outside. So imagine if we had an indoor track. People would have probably break records. Why does what does my leg feel weaker? So that's muscular imbalance. So you this is why you have to strength train. So you need to focus on single leg strength training to develop both sides of your body. So my doing time is not improving from what can I do? That's tough, man. 300 meters is yeah. What's your 100? Improve your 100 and your 200, and then your 300 will be better. Hi, sir. Indian 1600 meters. So I don't understand what that means. Yo, guys, last time, what is a 1600-meter race? Can anybody tell me what a 1600-meter race is? How can I lose weight? ah! You want the short answer, bro? Hmm? Stop eating goddamn conch salad. Stop with the conch salad, bro. Stop with the conch salad and the goddamn and the mangoes. And yo, my boy was a crazy hurdler too, you know. I used to love watching you hurdle, you know, A Will. But you're a musician, bro. When are you gonna make some tunes? Send some songs my way. Oh my god. 1600 meter is the race for joining the army in India. What is a 1600 meters? You just run for 1600 meters? Okay, I'm about to Google it because I'm done. That's probably it's just you're just running 1600 meters? I don't think this is irrelevant, bro. I think this is just some type of fitness thing. Drop the tune, man. Pull up the tune. 1600 meter. Oh, thank you, Mr. A. Will. 1600-meter is a mile? Are you sure? Isn't it shorter than a mile though? 1600 meter is a mile? It's shorter than a mile, bro. It's almost a mile. This guy said it's a medley. Sports trackers say it's a medley. Yeah, I don't know what I've never is this is not an Olympic event, right? Is a 1600 meter an Olympic event? I don't I know the 1500 meter is an Olympic event. I know that I came from the 1500. Fun fact, guys, my first event in track and field was the 1500. That's where it started for me. I think that's an event I could coach too, you know. I think I could if I get somebody who's really serious about doing some work, 1500 takes a lot of work though. It's not no easy work. So what is the I don't know. What is the peak? There's no peak, bro. It's all about where you started and what your goals are. So I said I was doing 30 minutes and I'm on here for an hour. If you ever want to host a seminar in NYC, I got a place. Okay, say less. I'm looking to do a few of these, and there's a few places I want to do seminars at. There's a few places I want to do seminars at. I think New York would be a good stop. I want to go to India too. But yeah, though, I'm gonna send you an inbox. I'm gonna send you an inbox. 400 is a quarter mile, 800 is a mile, 1600 is a mile. Oh, okay. Sports trackers. Okay, sir, you're right. Maybe A Will is right too. So it's the mile everybody keeps asking about. What Google is saying is 1600 is approximately 0 point whatever mile, but I guess it divides and round off to a mile. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, man. Me too. I have a lot of them too, but I'm trying to head over there. So the mile is not in the Olympics either. So where do you go? So for the 1600, what which so is it at a track meet or is it just some type of fitness thing, some type of conditioning work for maybe like the police or the army? It must be. Like you have to run a mile. I coached a few police officers. What's the youngest you trained? So Rick got vibes. My youngest ever was 6. Currently, my youngest female is 9. So my age range is from 9-year old to I have some 9-year olds and I have 12. I also have 14. So the age range is, and then I'll have people who are like in their 20s. My right knee has some swelling. It comes returning from any suggestion? Maybe, maybe you know, I swelling. That sounds like some type of muscle thing going on here. Maybe get some type of X-ray or some type of
Swelling where?
in the knee, some type of
That's probably fluid buildup. It could be joint effusion.
yeah. What this doctor is saying in the background. It could be something of that. So I would say go seek instead of asking me, go get a real diagnosis. I can't diagnose it. But if I'm gonna say anything about if you feel it after doing certain movements, then be careful of the surfaces that you're doing the movements on. Record yourself doing the movements and compare it to somebody who's doing it right, or look at somebody else doing it and compare it and see if you're doing it right. Because sometimes you're just doing the movements wrong and you're landing bad or something like that, or you're doing it on surfaces that are not conducive to jumping or impactful movements. So just be careful with those type of things. All right, I'm letting go of TikTok. TikTok done. All right. Next one to go is Instagram. Hit me up when you come to New York, of course. We're gonna do a seminar up there with a lot of athletes. We're gonna run clinics. My daughter is 11. That's a good age. I have an 11-year-old right now. She's preparing for, so my 11-year-old is actually preparing for the Rising Star. It's this championships in Canada, in Ontario, where it's all the kids in their age group compete against each other. So the next set of stars who are coming up, you get to see them. It's called the Rising Star Championship. So I have an 11-year-old who's preparing right now, and she doesn't shy away. She does every sport. I don't try to lock them into one thing. That's what I find with kids. Don't try to lock them into just like, oh, you're a sprinter, so don't do nothing else. Have them go play whatever other sport they're interested in, but at the same time, be like, okay, use use all of these to help you with, okay, you want to go win a medal, or you want to go run and participate in a different sport, or just to go compete. But don't lock them into one thing, especially at age 11, because you never know. Like my 11-year-old, she runs 105 for 400 indoor. She runs 43 seconds for 300, right? And she trained maybe like twice a week, and she plays volleyball, she plays basketball, right? But when she comes to training, I'm very realistic with her. I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to give me these 2 days, and when you come, I'm gonna put you to work. And putting her to work don't mean I'm gonna run her into the ground. We're gonna be doing fundamental stuff, teaching her how to use her arms when she's running, where her foot should be landing, stuff like that. Is she leaning back? Like little things like those. I see coaches killing the little kids with repetitions of running. Like, if you have a 10-year-old, they shouldn't be running repeat 300s. Like, don't make no sense. So if they're running repeat 300s at 10 years old, and they continue in the sport, how are you gonna develop them to when they get a little bit older, they're gonna be running repeat? How much different is it gonna be? You have to focus on the different aspects of training when they're younger. So you want to teach them about their body when they're younger. Sure, tell them, name the body parts, hamstrings and glutes, so they could know when they're feeling pain. Because a lot of times they're feeling pain in areas and they don't know what to call, or where they could just point at it. Do you think focusing on sprinting technique or strength training is more important? Both are good. When I was in high school, I didn't. This is a good question. So everybody experience is different. Some high schoolers are lifting really heavy, and they tend to be they plateau after a while. I was somebody who never lifted in high school. My high school didn't have a gym. My high school coach had a barbell, and we made concrete plates, right? We didn't know what the real weight of the plates were, but we made concrete plates, and we would do little stuff, but we didn't have like a full-blown gym. So I didn't do much lifting in high school, but I did a lot of body weight stuff like strength training. So I would say high schoolers should focus on strength training, especially mobility, flexibility, and core strength training. Those are the three top things high schoolers should be focused on. And I would say, yeah, speed. That's when they could develop speed, man. That's when you get them fast. When their muscles are younger, you could really teach some good sprint mechanics at that age. So this is a great question. These two go hand in hand. High schoolers shouldn't be doing max out back squats and stuff like that. They shouldn't be doing that. But they can, learn the fundamental movements. Are any mechanics within are efficient? Are running mechanics important, or the efficiency? So the mechanics is how you get the efficiency, sir. They're very important, because if you're somebody who's trying to run for longer, if you're leaning to one side, or you're rocking when you're running, or your arms are too up like that, stuff like that, that's muscular imbalance. After a while, your body is going to be talking to you. You're going to be feeling pain in certain areas. So the more you could relax the shoulders when you're running, come from the hip, have a good stride length and frequency, that's gonna that's gonna help you with the efficiency. And how you get that is by developing your mechanics. So don't sleep on the mechanics. If you're trying to improve, that's the most important thing. Oh, we got Sahana in here. Hello, Sahana. I know you're training right now to go run something long. Keep sharing the journey. You'll inspire somebody. What should a lactate session look like for a 400-meter runner? Whew. Um, Depends on what we're trying to achieve. We could go, so there's multiple ways to train this system, right? I would say not shorten the rest, But I like to increase the intensity and not not reduce the rest. So I have target time. So for example, we're going for 45 seconds and I need three of them and you have like 8 minutes. Like I would do it like that. Or another way to do it would be we go 300s and we're doing 5 minutes rest, right? And if we're trying to get fast, we go 150s, right? Or we go 300 first and then 150. So there's multiple ways how to attack lactate training, and it all depends on where we are in training too. Because if it's close to track meet, I'm not gonna be working athletes like that. This is gonna be reserved for, say for example, we just have a mini meet coming up or we're doing a test week coming up soon. I'll try to push that in there a little bit. But there is no one way. It all depends on the level of the athlete and what the athlete could, what the athlete body can stand. Because it doesn't make sense for you to say, okay, I have a 400 guy and I'm just trying to train some lactate session or I'm trying to have him feel some, pain in training if he's not running correctly. I hope that answers your question, sir. I don't train 5 days at the track. I only train 3 to 4 days at the track. That's just my style of training. Everybody's different. Some people are out there 5 days a week, some people are out there 6 days a week. I prefer to spread it out because our training is structured. So we could go 4 days with good structure and get more work done. All right, guys, I'm jumping over here now. Everybody who tuned in, I'm gonna come to you guys again. Maybe I'll come again on Saturday night. We'll see. Sunday night, I'm not sure. This was just a pop-up shop. I'll make the next one known because I'm getting way more questions this time around. I think I like how I'm doing it now, where I have a topic that I'm discussing, and then everything kind of centers around that topic. So everybody that tune in, thank you guys. Continue to share um, the knowledge, and until the next one, we out.